The year was 2847. 300 years had passed since humans first made contact with the Galactic Concord. The Concord was a coalition of over 4,000 alien species who had been traveling the stars for millions of years. They had seen countless civilizations rise and fall. They had built empires that stretched across entire spiral arms. They had fought wars that lasted longer than humanity had existed as a species, and they thought humans were nothing special. Ambassador Yellen Vasquez sat in the great hall of the Concord Assembly. The chamber was enormous, carved from a single piece of crystalline material that glowed with soft inner light. Thousands of alien delegates filled the seats around her. Some were tall and thin, with bodies like living glass. Others were clouds of connected minds, speaking as one. A few were so ancient that they remembered when Earth's sun was young. Yellen was used to the looks they gave her. Polite curiosity at best, dismissal at worst. To them, humans were children who had stumbled into an adult conversation. Interesting, perhaps, but not important. The Vorathi delegate was speaking now. The Vorathi were beings of living crystal, beautiful and cold. Their civilization was 3 million years old. The human request for mining rights in the Kepler Dead Zone is approved, the Vorathi said. Its voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. The region contains no resources of value to any Concord member. The debris fields and dead worlds there are of no strategic importance. Yellen stood and bowed her head respectfully. The people of Earth thank the Concord for this generous grant. We will make good use of these territories. A ripple of quiet amusement passed through the assembly. Several delegates made sounds that their translators did not bother to convert. Yellen knew what they meant anyway. The humans were collecting garbage again. Let them have their rocks and ruins. Is there anything else the human delegation requires? The Vorathi asked. The question was a formality. Everyone expected Yellen to say no and sit down. Actually, yes, Yellen said. We would also like to request access to the abandoned shipyards in the Thornax system, and the derelict mining stations near the galactic rim, and any worlds classified as resource depleted in sectors 447 through 512. The assembly went quiet. The Luminari delegate, one of the oldest beings in the room, turned its attention toward her. The Luminari were creatures of pure energy, ancient beyond measure. This one had been alive when dinosaurs walked on Earth. That is a significant request, the Luminari said. Its voice was like distant thunder. Why would humanity want so many worthless locations? Yellen smiled pleasantly. Research purposes. Historical study. We find your discarded technology fascinating. Perhaps we can learn something from what others have thrown away. More amusement. The Sketh Collective, a hive mind of billions of connected insects, buzzed with laughter. The humans wish to study our garbage. How charming. How very human. The requests were approved without debate. Why would anyone object? The locations were worthless. The resources were gone. Let the young species play with their toys. Yellen thanked them again and sat down. Her expression remained calm and grateful. Inside, she was counting. That made 47 abandoned shipyards, 200 dead mining stations, over 3,000 resource-depleted worlds. All of it now belonged to humanity. After the assembly ended, Yellen walked through the crystal corridors of the station. Her aide, a young man named Marcus Cole, fell into step beside her. They approved everything, Marcus said quietly. His voice held a note of disbelief even after all these years. Again, they always do, Yellen replied. Why wouldn't they? We're asking for things they consider worthless. But if they knew what we were doing with it all. Yellen stopped walking. She turned to face Marcus, her expression serious. They will never know. Not until we're ready. That's the whole point. She resumed walking, her heels clicking against the crystal floor. The Concord has existed for 50 million years. They've seen everything. They've done everything. They think they know how the universe works. They think they understand power. And they're wrong. They're arrogant, Yellen said. There's a difference. They look at humanity and see a young species with a small fleet and limited technology. They see us asking for scraps and think we're desperate. They never consider that we might have a plan. They reached the docking bay where their shuttle waited. Yellen paused at the airlock, looking back at the massive station one last time. My grandmother started this work, she said softly. She was the first human ambassador to the Concord. She smiled at their insults and thanked them for their condescension. She requested the first batch of worthless territories. She knew she would never see the results. And now? Yellen's eyes hardened. Now we're almost ready. Another 50 years, maybe less. And then the galaxy will learn what humanity has been doing with their garbage. Far away from the Concord assembly, beyond the orbit of Neptune, the Oort cloud drifted in eternal darkness. Trillions of ice chunks and frozen rocks circled the distant sun. Nothing lived here. Nothing moved. The region was so empty that light took hours to cross it, or so everyone believed. Deep within the cloud, hidden by distance and darkness, something vast was taking shape. 7 somethings, actually. Each one was a sphere over 3,000 kilometers across. Each one was made from materials that the Concord had declared worthless. Neutronium from collapsed stars. Exotic matter from abandoned experiments. Ancient alloys from civilizations that had died before the Concord existed. The humans called them the 7 Titans. Construction foreman Jin Park stood on an observation platform inside the largest of the spheres. The interior was hollow, filled with scaffolding and machinery and the constant movement of construction drones. Thousands of human workers lived aboard the structure, building it piece by piece over generations. Jin's grandfather had started working on this project. His father had continued it. Now Jin was supervising the final stages. Soon, very soon, the work would be complete. "How are we looking?" a voice asked behind him. Jin turned to find Director Sarah Chen approaching. She was an older woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been running the project for 30 years. "Prometheus is at 97% completion," Jin reported. "Atlas and Hercules are close behind. The other 4 need another decade or so." Sarah nodded slowly. She walked to the observation window and looked out at the massive construction before them. Weapon arrays the size of cities. Engine systems that could move moons. Shields that could withstand the heat of a star. 97%, she repeated. "My mother always said she hoped she would live to see it finished. She didn't. But we will," Jin said. "Yes." Sarah's voice was quiet but firm. "We will. And when we're done, the galaxy will finally understand." "Understand what?" Sarah turned to face him. Her eyes held something fierce and proud. "That humans are not children. We're not weak. We're not insignificant. We've been watching the Concord for 300 years. We've studied their technology, their tactics, their history. We know about the threats they've faced, the enemies they've fought, the wars they've barely survived." She looked back at the construction. "The Concord thinks they're safe because they're old, because they're powerful. But we've read their ancient records. We know what's coming. Sooner or later, something will arrive that they can't defeat. Something that will burn through their fleets like fire through paper. And when that happens," Sarah smiled. It was not a kind smile. "When that happens, humanity will be ready. We'll be ready with 7 planet-sized warships that the galaxy never knew existed, and we will save them all, whether they want our help or not." In the darkness of the Oort cloud, the 7 Titans continued to grow. Silent, secret, waiting. The galaxy wasn't ready for what was coming, but humanity was. The first warning came from a luminary observation post at the edge of the galaxy. The ancient energy being who operated the station had been watching the void between galaxies for over 2 million years. In all that time, it had never seen anything like this. Ships were coming. Thousands of them. Tens of thousands. They emerged from the darkness beyond the galactic rim like a swarm of metal insects. Each one was massive, covered in weapons and armor that no Concord database could identify. They moved in perfect formation, advancing toward the Milky Way with terrible purpose. The Luminary Observer sent one message before the first wave destroyed its station. "The harvesters have returned. On Luminara Prime, the homeworld of the oldest species in the Concord." Panic spread like wildfire. The Luminary Council gathered in their ancient chamber, beings of pure light conferring in voices that shook the walls. "It cannot be," the eldest among them said. "The Arxelian hegemony was destroyed 500 million years ago. Our ancestors watched them burn." "Our ancestors were wrong," another replied. "They survived, they rebuilt, and now they have come back." Across the galaxy, emergency sessions convened on 1,000 worlds. The Varathi crystal spires hummed with desperate communication. The Sketh Collective spread word through their hive networks at the speed of thought. Species that had not spoken to each other in millennia suddenly found common ground in their terror. Everyone knew the stories about the Arxelians. They were told to young beings as warnings. The hegemony did not conquer. They did not negotiate. They did not enslave. They simply consumed. Every world they touched was stripped of all resources, all life, all value. They left behind nothing but dead rock floating in empty space. 3 galaxies had fallen to them before the Milky Way. Entire civilizations, hundreds of billions of years of history, erased as if they had never existed. And now they were here. Grand Admiral Thessan of the Vorathi stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crystal Vengeance. Around him, the combined fleet of the Galactic Concord assembled for battle. It was the largest fleet ever gathered in the history of the Milky Way. 12 million ships from 4,000 species, united against a common enemy. It would not be enough. Thessan studied the tactical displays with growing despair. The Arxelian vanguard alone numbered 50,000 vessels. Each one was larger than anything in the Concord fleet. Their weapons were more powerful. Their shields were stronger. And this was just the vanguard. The main fleet was still coming. "What are our projections?" Thessan asked his tactical officer. The officer hesitated. "Sir, based on current analysis, we can expect to destroy approximately 8,000 enemy vessels before our fleet is eliminated." 8,000 out of 50,000. "Yes, sir. And the main fleet contains an estimated 2 million additional ships." Thessan felt something he had not experienced in his 3,000 years of life. Despair. True, absolute despair. "We cannot win," he said quietly. "Even if every ship in the Concord sacrificed itself, we cannot stop them." "No, sir. We cannot." The Grand Admiral was silent for a long moment. Then he straightened his crystalline form and gave his orders. "All ships will fight. We will delay them as long as possible. Perhaps some worlds can evacuate. Perhaps some species can escape to the void between galaxies. We will buy them whatever time we can." It was not much of a plan, but it was all they had. On Earth, Ambassador Yelen Vasquez watched the reports coming in from the front lines. Her office was quiet, lit only by the glow of holographic displays showing the galactic situation. Red icons marked the Arxelian advance. Blue icons marked the Concord fleet. The blue was retreating everywhere. Her door chimed. She knew who it was without looking. "Come in, Marcus." Her aide entered, his face pale. "The first battle is over. The Concord lost 40% of their forward fleet. The Arxelians lost nothing." "I know. The Vorathi are calling for total mobilization. Every species is being asked to contribute everything they have." "I know that too." Marcus sat down heavily in a chair across from her. "What did we contribute?" 12 patrol corvettes. That's what our official fleet register shows. 12 ships. The Concord thinks we're useless." Yelen did not respond. She was looking at a different display, one that showed 7 points of light in the Oort cloud. 7 massive signatures that no Concord sensor had ever detected. "How much longer?" Marcus asked. "The Titans are ready. They've been ready for 5 years. We were waiting for. Well, we were hoping this day would never come, but it did. Yes." Yelen stood and walked to the window. Earth hung in the darkness outside, blue and green and beautiful. Billions of people going about their lives, trusting that someone was protecting them. The Concord will make their stand at Kethris Prime. It's a strategic choke point. If they lose there's nothing between the Arxelians and the core worlds. "And that's where we reveal ourselves?" Yelen nodded slowly. "Director Chen has already given the order. The Titans are powering up their engines. They'll arrive at Kethris Prime in approximately 6 hours, after the battle starts. Yes, we need the timing to be right. We need the Concord to understand what they're facing, what they cannot defeat on their own." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "They're going to be angry. When they find out what we've been doing all this time, they're going to feel betrayed, probably." Yelen turned back to face him. "But they'll be alive to feel angry. That's what matters." In the Oort cloud, the 7 Titans awakened. Admiral Chenwei stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, the largest of the planet ships. The bridge alone was bigger than most space stations. Thousands of crew members worked at consoles spread across multiple levels. Holographic displays showed every system, every weapon, every corner of the massive vessel. "All stations report ready," her executive officer announced. "The other 6 Titans are confirming combat status." Chen nodded. She was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes. Her family had served in Earth's military for 12 generations, But nothing in that history had prepared any of them for this moment. Navigation. Plot a course for Kethris Prime. Maximum speed. Course plotted, Admiral. At full power, we will arrive in 5 hours and 47 minutes. Weapons. Begin charging all primary arrays. I want us ready to fire the moment we exit slip space. Understood, Admiral. Primary weapons charging now. Chen looked at the main view screen. The stars were just points of light from here, impossibly distant. But somewhere out there, the galaxy was burning. Species that had existed for millions of years were being wiped out. Worlds that had held civilization since before humans learned to use fire were being consumed. Communications, Chen said. Open a channel to all Titan vessels. A chime indicated the channel was open. This is Admiral Chen Wei, commanding the Prometheus. Today we reveal ourselves to the galaxy. Today we show them what humanity has built in the darkness. Today we save them. She paused, looking at her crew. Men and women from every nation on Earth, scientists and soldiers, engineers and pilots. All of them had dedicated their lives to this moment. The Concord never believed in us. They thought we were weak, insignificant, children playing at being a starfaring species. They gave us their garbage and laughed at our ambitions. Her voice hardened. Today we prove them wrong. Today we fight, not for glory, not for revenge, but because it's the right thing to do. Because someone has to save them, even if they never asked for our help. She straightened in her command chair. All ships, engage engines. We have a galaxy to rescue. 7 impossible vessels began to move. Engines the size of continents fired, pushing the massive spheres forward with accelerating speed. Within minutes, they had reached velocities that should have been impossible for objects their size. The stars blurred. Space folded. The 7 Titans raced toward destiny. Behind them, Earth hung in the darkness, peaceful and quiet. Its people had no idea what was happening. They didn't know about the threat. They didn't know about the secret project that had been building for 3 centuries. They only knew that they trusted their leaders to protect them. That trust was about to be tested. At Kethris Prime, the battle had already begun. Conquered ships were dying by the hundreds. The Arxelians advanced relentlessly, their weapons tearing through shields and armor like they were made of paper. Grand Admiral Thesson watched his fleet crumble. His flagship was damaged. His escort was gone. Around him, the last hope of the galaxy was being systematically destroyed. Then his sensors detected something new. 7 massive signatures, emerging from slip space directly behind the enemy fleet. What is that? Thesson demanded. Those readings can't be right. Those objects are the size of moons. His tactical officer stared at the display in shock. Sir, they're broadcasting an identification signal. They claim to be human vessels. Human? That's impossible. The humans don't have anything like that. The humans don't have anything at all. But the impossible was happening. 7 planet-sized spheres hung in space where nothing had been a moment before. And as Thesson watched, they began to fire. The galaxy would never be the same. The Arxelian command ship Absolute Dominion had destroyed over 2,000 worlds in its existence. It was the flagship of the Vanguard fleet, a vessel 8 kilometers long covered in weapons that had burned entire civilizations. Its commander had overseen the consumption of 3 stellar empires and had never known defeat. That changed in the span of 4 seconds. A beam of pure destructive energy struck the Absolute Dominion from an angle that should have been impossible. The ship's shields, designed to withstand the combined firepower of 100 lesser vessels, failed instantly. The beam continued through the hull, through the reactor core, and out the other side. The Absolute Dominion became an expanding cloud of superheated gas before anyone aboard could even understand what was happening. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out in terrifying succession. Arxelian ships that had been advancing confidently moments before were simply ceasing to exist. Beams of light that bent space itself tore through formations. Gravity weapons crushed vessels into spheres the size of footballs. Antimatter torrents burned away entire squadrons in flashes of impossible brightness. Admiral Chen Wei watched the destruction from the bridge of the Prometheus with calm satisfaction. The tactical displays showed enemy ships vanishing by the dozens, then by the hundreds. In the first 30 seconds of engagement, humanity had destroyed more Arxelian vessels than the entire Concord fleet had managed in 3 days of fighting. Target their command ships, Chen ordered. Cut off their coordination. Make them panic. Targeting solutions locked, Admiral. Firing. 7 beams of weaponized Hawking radiation lanced out from the 7 Titans. Each beam was a stream of evaporating micro-singularities. Tiny black holes that existed for only fractions of a second, but released their entire mass as destructive energy. The beams struck 7 Arxelian command vessels simultaneously. All 7 ceased to exist. On the Concorde side of the battlefield, Grand Admiral Thessan stared at his displays in absolute disbelief. His remaining ships had stopped fighting. They were simply watching as the impossible unfolded before them. "Those readings cannot be accurate," he said for the 3rd time. "Ships that size cannot move that fast. Weapons that powerful should not exist." His tactical officer shook her head slowly. "The readings are accurate, sir. I've verified them multiple times. Those vessels are exactly what they appear to be. Human vessels. Planet-sized human vessels. But how? The humans have nothing. They showed us their fleet registry. 12 corvettes. 12. It appears they were not entirely honest with us, sir. On the Prometheus, Chen Wei allowed herself a small smile. The Arxelians were in full retreat now. Their vanguard fleet, which had expected to crush the Concorde without effort, was fleeing toward the galactic rim. They left behind thousands of destroyed ships and millions of dead crew. "Should we pursue, Admiral?" her weapons officer asked. "Negative. Let them go. Let them report back to their masters what they found here. Let them explain that the galaxy is no longer defenseless." She turned to her communications officer. "Open a channel to the Concorde fleet. All frequencies. Channel open, Admiral." Chen stood and walked to the center of the bridge. She knew that billions of beings across the galaxy were watching. This moment would be remembered forever. "This is Admiral Chen Wei of the Earth Defense Force, commanding the planet ship Prometheus. To all Concorde vessels, please stand down and allow us to secure the battlefield. The immediate threat has been neutralized." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "To the Galactic Concorde, I bring greetings from humanity. We apologize for keeping our true capabilities secret. We apologize for deceiving you about our strength. But we do not apologize for being prepared. We do not apologize for surviving." Another pause. "We are here to help. We have always intended to help. Please do not be afraid." The channel closed. Chen returned to her command chair and let out a long breath. The hard part was over. Now came the even harder part. Explaining everything to a galaxy that had just learned it didn't understand humans at all. On Luminara Prime, the Concorde Assembly gathered in emergency session. The Great Hall was filled with delegates from thousands of species, all of them talking at once. Some were angry, some were frightened, some were simply confused. The translator system struggled to keep up with the chaos. At the center of it all, Ambassador Yellen Vasquez stood calmly. She had arrived hours ago aboard a shuttle from Earth. She had expected this reception. She was ready for it. "Silence," the Luminari Elder commanded. Its voice shook the walls and made several delegates flinch. The chamber slowly quieted. The ancient being turned its attention to Yellen. "Ambassador Vasquez, your vessels have saved the Concorde fleet. For this, we are grateful, but you have also revealed a deception that has lasted 300 years. You have admitted that humanity has been secretly building weapons of unimaginable power while pretending to be weak. You must understand our concern." "I do understand," Yellen replied, "and I am prepared to answer any questions you have." The Varathi High Crystallum spoke next. How did you build such things without our knowledge? Our sensors watch every corner of this galaxy. Our intelligence networks penetrate every civilization. We should have seen something." "You weren't looking," Yellen said simply. "You gave us the resources yourselves. Every abandoned shipyard, every depleted mining station, every dead world we requested over the past 3 centuries. You approved them all because you thought they were worthless. You never imagined we might actually use them." "Use them for what purpose?" the Sketh Collective demanded. "Were you planning to attack us? To conquer the Concorde?" "No." Yellen's voice was firm. "We were planning to save you, exactly as we just did." The assembly erupted in noise again. Yellen waited for it to subside before continuing. "Humanity has studied your history. We've read your ancient records. We know about the threats you've faced over the past 50 million years. The Arxelians, the Void Swarms, the Machine Tide. Every few million years, something comes along that nearly destroys everything. She looked around the chamber, meeting as many eyes as she could. We saw a pattern. We saw that the Concorde barely survives each of these events. You lose countless lives, countless worlds. You suffer and bleed and struggle, and eventually, you win. But each time, you're weaker than before. And you thought you could do better? The Luminary Elder asked. We thought we could help, but we knew you would never accept help from a species you considered children. So we prepared in secret. We gathered resources quietly. We built our titans where no one would look. And we waited. Yellen's voice softened. We hoped we would never need to use them. We hoped the Arxelians were truly gone. We hoped the next great threat was millions of years away. But when the Vanguard appeared, we knew the time had come. You could have told us, the Varathi said. You could have warned us about what you were building. Would you have believed us? Yellen asked. Would you have trusted a species you barely noticed? Or would you have seen us as a threat and tried to stop us? The Varathi had no answer. Neither did anyone else. We are not your enemies, Yellen continued. We have never been your enemies. We are simply a species that learned very early in our history that the universe is dangerous, that survival requires preparation. That hope is not a strategy. She straightened her shoulders. The Arxelian Vanguard is gone, but the main fleet is still coming. Millions of ships, enough to consume this entire galaxy. The 7 Titans have bought us time, but the war is not over. It has barely begun. Yellen looked at the Luminary Elder directly. We can fight this war alone. The Titans are powerful enough to hold off the hegemony for years, perhaps decades, but we would rather fight alongside you. We would rather face this threat together, as allies, as equals. The Elder was silent for a long moment. When it spoke, its voice was softer than before. You ask us to trust you. After 3 centuries of deception, I ask you to judge us by our actions, Yellen replied. We saved your fleet. We saved millions of lives. We revealed our secret to help you, knowing it would cause anger and suspicion. We did all of this because it was right, not because we expected gratitude. Another long silence. We will discuss this, the Elder finally said. We will decide what to do. In the meantime, your vessels may remain in conquered space. You have earned that much. Yellen bowed her head. Thank you. That is all we ask. As she left the chamber, she allowed herself to hope. The galaxy was in danger. The greatest threat in millions of years was coming. But for the first time in human history, humanity was not facing it alone. Perhaps, just perhaps, they had found a family among the stars. 3 months had passed since the Battle of Kethris Prime, 3 months of tense negotiations, angry accusations, and slowly growing understanding. The Galactic Concorde had not collapsed, but it had been shaken to its foundation. On the Prometheus, Admiral Chen Wei received a stream of visitors from every corner of the galaxy. Scientists came to study human technology. Military officers came to learn human tactics. Diplomats came to understand human intentions. All of them left with the same confused expression on their faces. The Varathi delegation was the most persistent. High Commander Keslan, a being of flowing crystal, had spent 2 weeks aboard the Prometheus, asking endless questions and making detailed observations. I do not understand your psychology, Keslan admitted one evening, standing with Chen on an observation deck. The viewport showed a spectacular view of a nearby nebula, painted in shades of purple and gold. What confuses you? Chen asked. Everything. You built these vessels to save species who looked down on you. You worked for 3 centuries on a project whose creators would never see completed. You revealed yourselves at the perfect moment to rescue your enemies. This does not make sense. Chen smiled slightly. We don't see you as enemies. We never did. But we treated you so poorly. We dismissed you. We mocked you. We gave you garbage and called it generosity. Yes. And yet you saved us anyway. Yes. Keslan's crystalline form flickered with frustrated light. Why? Chen was quiet for a moment, gathering her thoughts. On Earth, we have a concept called the long view. It means thinking about the future, not just the present. Planning for your grandchildren, not just yourself. We have similar concepts. All long-lived species do. But we're not long-lived, Chen pointed out. Individual humans live maybe 100 years, if we're lucky. We don't have time to see our plans completed, so we learn to trust. We learn to build things for people we'll never meet. We learn to sacrifice for generations that don't exist yet. She turned to face Kesslin directly. 300 years ago, the first humans who started this project knew they would never see it finished. They knew they would never stand on these bridges or fire these weapons, but they worked anyway, because they believed the future mattered, because they believed humanity could be more than what the galaxy saw when they looked at us. That is remarkable. That is human. Similar conversations were happening all across the galaxy. Human engineers shared their designs with luminary scientists. Human soldiers trained alongside Sketh warriors. Human diplomats met with representatives from species who had never bothered to learn their names before. Not everyone was happy. The Thracian Empire, a proud military civilization that had always considered themselves the Concord's greatest warriors, reacted badly to being outperformed by a species they had once dismissed as prey animals. "This is an insult," Ambassador Thran roared at a joint council meeting. "The humans have made fools of us all. They have shown that our greatest warships are toys compared to their constructions. How are we supposed to maintain our dignity after this?" Ambassador Vasquez responded calmly. "We did not build the Titans to embarrass anyone. We built them to protect everyone. And now you expect gratitude? You expect us to bow before human superiority? We expect nothing. We hope for cooperation. There's a difference." Thran bared his teeth in what might have been a snarl or a laugh. "Hope. You humans and your hope. You are the strangest species I have ever encountered. We get that a lot." Despite the tensions, progress was being made. The Concord had officially accepted humanity as a full member species, with all the rights and responsibilities that entailed. Human technology was being studied and, in some cases, adapted for use by other civilizations. A joint command structure had been established to coordinate the defense against the coming Arxelian main fleet. Admiral Chen was promoted to Grand Admiral and given overall command of the combined forces. It was an unprecedented honor for a human, and it caused considerable debate among the elder races. But even her critics had to admit that no one else had her experience with the weapons that would decide the coming war. 1 month before the main Arxelian fleet was expected to arrive, Chen addressed the combined officer corps in a massive conference hall on Luminara Prime. Thousands of military leaders from hundreds of species listened as she laid out her strategy. "The enemy fleet numbers approximately 2 million vessels," Chen began. "They are larger, more heavily armed, and more numerous than anything we can field. On paper, we cannot win." A ripple of unease passed through the audience. "But we have advantages they don't expect. First, the 7 Titans. Each of our planet ships can engage and destroy thousands of enemy vessels before taking significant damage. Second, the reformed Concord fleet. You have studied our tactics and adapted your weapons based on our designs. You are not the same force that was retreating at Kethris Prime." She pulled up a holographic map of the galaxy. "Third, we have geography. The Arxelians must advance through a limited number of spatial corridors to reach the core worlds. We will fortify these corridors. We will make them pay for every light year they advance. And if that's not enough," Grand Admiral Thesson asked. He had recovered from his injuries at Kethris Prime and was now serving as Chen's second-in-command. "Then we fall back to the core worlds and defend them directly. The Titans can shield multiple planets at once. We can hold out for decades if necessary, wearing down their fleet through attrition." "Decades," someone muttered. "Our children will be fighting this war. Perhaps, but your grandchildren will live in a free galaxy. That's what we're fighting for." The meeting ended with a sense of grim determination. No one pretended the coming battle would be easy, but for the first time, the Concord faced a threat with something it had never had before: genuine hope of victory. In her quarters that night, Chen received an unexpected visitor. The Luminary Elder, the oldest living being in the galaxy, appeared in her doorway like a column of soft light. "May I enter, Admiral?" "Of course." The Elder drifted into the room, its energy form adjusting to fit the space. "I have been alive for 800 million years. I have seen countless civilizations rise and fall. I have watched galaxies consume each other across the void. In all that time, I have never encountered a species quite like yours. Is that good or bad? I am still deciding." The Elder's voice held a note of amusement. "You are young. Your entire history fits within a single moment of my existence. And yet you have done something my people never could. You have united the galaxy." Chen shook her head. We haven't united anything. We just gave everyone something to focus on besides their differences. That is unity, Admiral. Perhaps not the philosophical kind, but the practical kind that actually matters. The Elder's light flickered thoughtfully. I must confess something to you. When humanity first contacted the Concorde, I argued against accepting you. I said you were too young, too volatile, too dangerous. I said you would cause problems. You weren't entirely wrong. No, but I was not entirely right either. I saw your youth as weakness. I saw your short lifespans as evidence of insignificance. I did not understand what you truly are. And what are we truly? The Elder was silent for a long moment. You are hope, it finally said. You are beings who know that death comes quickly, who know that time is limited, who know that the universe is vast and uncaring. And yet you build anyway. You dream anyway. You reach for the stars anyway. The Elder moved closer, its light warming the room. My people have forgotten how to hope. We have lived so long that we have seen everything fail eventually. We have become cynical, cautious, tired, but you remind us why we started exploring in the first place, why we built our first ships and left our homeworld, why we wanted to touch the stars. Chen did not know what to say. She had never expected words like this from the oldest being in the galaxy. Win this war, Admiral Chen Wei. Win it for all of us. And when it is over, teach us how to hope again. The Elder departed, leaving Chen alone with her thoughts. Outside her window, the stars burned with ancient light. Somewhere out there, an enemy fleet was approaching. Somewhere out there, billions of lives hung in the balance. But for the first time in her life, Chen truly believed they could win. Not because the Titans were powerful, not because the Concorde was united, but because hope was the most powerful weapon of all, and humanity had enough hope to share with the entire galaxy. The Arxelian main fleet arrived like a tide of darkness. 2 million ships emerged from the void between galaxies, blotting out the stars with their numbers. Sensors across the Concorde detected their approach and sent warnings that traveled at the speed of light. Grand Admiral Chen Wei stood on the bridge of the Prometheus and watched them come. The tactical display showed the enemy formation, a wall of metal and weapons stretching across light years of space. Behind her, the crew worked in tense silence. Everyone knew what was at stake. All forces, report status, Chen ordered. Voices came back from across the fleet. The 7 Titans were in position, spread across the primary invasion corridor. The reformed Concorde fleet, now numbering 8 million vessels, waited in support formations. Defensive stations armed with human-designed weapons guarded every choke point. Status confirmed, Admiral. Her executive officer reported. All units ready for engagement. Chen nodded. Then let's begin. The war that followed lasted 7 years. 7 years of constant battle across 1,000 star systems. 7 years of victories and defeats. Of worlds saved and worlds lost. 7 years of sacrifice that would be remembered forever. The Titans proved to be everything humanity had promised. The Prometheus alone destroyed over 100,000 enemy ships in the first year of fighting. Its weapons carved through Arxelian formations like fire through ice. Its shields deflected bombardments that would have vaporized planets. When damaged, it retreated to repair itself, then returned to battle stronger than before. But the Titans were not invincible. The Hercules fell in the 3rd year of the war, overwhelmed by a concentrated assault from 30,000 enemy vessels. Its crew of 1 million sacrificed themselves to destroy an Arxelian command cluster that had been coordinating attacks across an entire sector. The Atlas was crippled in year 5. Its engines destroyed by a suicide run from Arxelian world eaters. It drifted in the void for 6 months before human engineers could restore enough systems to resume combat operations. And in the 6th year, Admiral Chen Wei made her final stand. The Arxelians had developed a new weapon specifically designed to destroy the Titans, a massive device called the Void Breaker. It could tear holes in space itself, creating gravitational anomalies that even planet ships could not survive. They deployed it at the Battle of the Threshold, a choke point that led directly to the Concorde's core worlds. Chen knew what had to be done. All hands, prepare for emergency evacuation, she announced. We are going to ram the enemy device. Her executive officer stared at her in horror. Admiral, that will destroy the Prometheus. There's no way to survive. I know. Chen's voice was calm. But if we don't stop the Void Breaker, It will tear a hole in space large enough to swallow the entire sector. Billions will die. The war will be lost. Admiral, that's an order, Commander. Get our people off this ship. The evacuation took 20 minutes. Shuttles and escape pods fled the Prometheus in streams, heading for the safety of Allied vessels. Chen remained on the bridge with a skeleton crew of volunteers, steering the massive ship toward its final destination. The void breaker was already powering up. Reality itself was beginning to twist and distort around it. In moments, it would fire. Chen opened a channel to the entire fleet. This is Admiral Chen Wei. The Prometheus is about to engage in a ramming attack on the enemy superweapon. I want you all to know that it has been my honor to serve with you. Every one of you. Human and alien alike. She smiled, though no one could see it. Finish this war. Protect the galaxy. And remember that humanity will always stand with you. The Prometheus accelerated to maximum speed. The Arxelians tried to stop it, but the planet ship's shields held long enough. At the last moment, Chen activated the self-destruct sequence on all 7 reactor cores. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. A miniature star bloomed in the darkness, consuming the void breaker and the Prometheus together. When the light faded, nothing remained but scattered atoms. Grand Admiral Chen Wei was gone, but the Concorde survived, and the war continued. In the 7th year, the tide finally turned. The Arxelians had lost too many ships, too many commanders, too many irreplaceable resources. Their advance slowed, then stopped, then began to reverse. Admiral Thesson, now commanding the combined fleet from the bridge of the Colossus, led the counteroffensive. Human and alien forces fought side by side, pushing the enemy back toward the galactic rim. System by system, the Arxelians retreated. The final battle took place at the edge of the galaxy, where the hegemony's remaining fleet made its last stand. It was the largest engagement in galactic history. 4 million Concorde ships against 600,000 Arxelians. The battle lasted 3 days. When it was over, the Arxelian hegemony was broken. Their surviving ships fled into the intergalactic void. Their threat ended forever. The galaxy was saved. On Luminara Prime, the victory celebration lasted for a month. Species that had fought together for 7 years gathered to honor their fallen and celebrate their triumph. Monuments were built, songs were sung, stories were told that would be passed down for millions of years. Ambassador Yelena Vasquez, now elderly but still sharp, gave the keynote address at the final ceremony. She stood before an audience of billions, her voice carrying across the galaxy through countless screens and speakers. "We have won," she began. "The hegemony is defeated. The galaxy is safe. But we must not forget the cost. Billions died in this war. Countless worlds were scarred. Friends and family were lost." She paused, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Admiral Chen Wei gave her life to protect us all. She was not the only one. Humans and aliens alike sacrificed everything so that others might live. They are heroes, all of them. And we must never forget what they did. Her voice strengthened. 300 years ago, humanity came to the Concorde as newcomers. You saw us as children. You gave us your garbage and expected nothing in return. But we saw potential in what you discarded. We built weapons to protect you. We prepared for a day we hoped would never come. She looked around at the assembled delegates. When that day came, we did not hesitate. We revealed our secret. We joined your fight. We bled beside you. And together, we won. Yellen reached into her pocket and pulled out a small data chip. This contains the complete technical specifications for the Titangent-class planet ships. All of them. Every weapon, every system, every secret we kept for 3 centuries. She held it up for everyone to see. We are giving this to the Concorde, freely, without conditions. Because we never wanted to be your protectors. We wanted to be your partners. She placed the chip on the podium. Build your own Titans. Improve on our designs. Spread this technology to every species that wants it. Make sure that the next time a threat emerges from the void, we will all be ready together. The applause lasted for an hour. 20 years later, the galaxy had transformed. Every major species had built their own planet ships. Defensive platforms guarded the galactic rim. Early warning systems monitored the void between galaxies. The Milky Way was more united, more prepared, and more hopeful than it had ever been. On the edge of the Andromeda galaxy, a human exploration vessel drifted through the darkness. Its crew was conducting surveys for the Intergalactic Initiative, a joint project to monitor external threats. Junior Officer Tomas Reyes sat at his sensor station, reviewing data from the latest scans. His crewmates included a Vorathi scientist, a Luminari observer, and a Sketh communications specialist. Such mixed crews had become common in the years since the war. Detecting something unusual, Tomas announced. Large artificial structure at the extreme edge of sensor range. The Vorathi scientist leaned over to look at his display. Configuration? Spherical. Approximately 3,000 kilometers in diameter. Another planet ship? Checking identification codes now. Tomas smiled as the data came through. It's the Chenwei, first of the new intergalactic defense platforms. They must have just finished construction. The Luminari observer's light flickered with interest. Named after your admiral, I presume? Yes. The one who saved us all at the threshold. A fitting tribute. Tomas looked out the viewport at the stars. Somewhere out there, in the infinite darkness between galaxies, unknown threats waited. New enemies would eventually emerge. New wars would eventually be fought, but the galaxy would be ready. Humans and aliens together. Partners. Family. You know, Tomas said. My great-grandmother worked on the original Prometheus. She was a structural engineer. Spent 40 years building something she knew she would never see completed. That must have been difficult, the Vorathi said. She used to say it was the proudest work of her life. She said that building something for the future was the most human thing anyone could do. The Vorathi considered this for a moment. I think I am beginning to understand your species. Yeah. Yes. You do not live for yourselves. You live for what comes after. For the children, the grandchildren, the generations yet unborn. The Vorathi's crystalline form glowed warmly. It is beautiful. Tomas smiled. We try. Outside the viewport, the stars burned with eternal light. The Chenwei stood watch at the edge of forever, a monument to sacrifice and hope, and across the galaxy, trillions of beings from thousands of species lived their lives in peace, knowing that they were protected, knowing that they were ready, knowing that they were no longer alone. The universe was vast and dangerous and full of wonders, but humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors or rulers, but as builders and protectors, as hope made manifest, and the galaxy would never forget.